Hello and welcome to the Royal Entomological Society YouTube live session. And we are so excited to be here with you to share stories in entomology. And you can see before you some entomologists who've really inspired me over the years. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing their stories, to hearing about their favorite insects, to hearing everything they have to say to us today about entomology. So I'm going to hand over to them and they're going to give a short introduction to themselves and to the work that they've been doing. So I'm just going to share my screen and you will be able to see them. I'm going to check with the panel that they can all see the screen. Great. So yeah, before we begin, we have here Esther, Ashleigh, Perpetra and Seirian, and I'm so grateful to Fran in the background from the Royal Entomological Society for sorting everything out for us. It's just fantastic. So Ashleigh's going to begin. She's going to introduce herself.
Hello, and thank you to you, Helen, as well, for hosting us all today, for including me in this. It's wonderful to be joined by such incredible female entomologists. So yes, I'm Ashleigh Whiffin and I am Assistant Curator of Entomology at National Museum of Scotland. So I'm based in Edinburgh and I've been with the museum for coming up 6 years, I think. And I sort of started off as like a technical assistant and progressed slightly. There's just a small team of us working at this museum, but we've got a collection of about 2.5 million specimens. So it's just a substantial size collection. It's certainly enough for us to keep us really busy. And we use the collection predominantly for research. So all those millions of specimens are research specimens, so we can't put them all on display, obviously. And we host about 100 or so visitors every year to the collection, and that's everything from researchers, fellow museum curators, students who are maybe just starting out and need help with identification, so they're using the collection as a resource to help them identify specimens. But we also use the specimens in the collection for education. So this is one of my main passions, is trying to inspire the next generation. So we do this obviously through creating displays, public exhibitions, but also through just doing one-off events. So usually for National Insect Week, we'd be doing some physical events, taking draws of specimens out, sometimes outside of the museum, sometimes we have partner organisations, and really just giving young people and families and anybody that comes along a close-up view for some of the specimens that we maybe don't usually have on show. And so that's it really. Like, I'm a curator, so I go out and do field work and bring in new material for the collection, which is really important, as well as caring for the collection that we already have and hosting all those visitors, making it accessible to people. And then in my spare time, because I can't get enough of entomology, I help co-organise a national recording scheme. So this is for burying beetles, which are my passion. I'm really kind of inspired by Helen and her colleagues who run the UK Ladybird scheme. So it's a very baby scheme. We're in our infancy, and obviously it's a bit more of a niche group of beetles. These are the carrion beetles associated with dead animals, which we can talk about a little bit more later on. But yeah, so that's me. I'll hand over to Helen again.
Thank you so much, Ashleigh, and yeah, all of your work is incredibly inspiring. It's been wonderful as well to visit at the museum and to see the Silphidy scheme really building. It's just wonderful. So over to you, Esther.
Okay, hello everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Esther Ngumbi. I am at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and I'm fascinated with just the communication that goes on between insects, their plants, which is their host food. And so my research is trying to understand the chemical signals that mediate all the communication that happens. As we know, insects cannot talk, but there's a lot of chemistry. I tend to call them 911 signals that go around every day, every second. You can't see them, but as a chemical ecologist, I work to understand them. And once we understand them, then we can be able to manipulate these interactions and provide solutions to everyday challenges, especially food security challenges that are brought about by insect pests. In my spare time, which I don't have, but I love science communication, and I love to share our science and discoveries to the wider public. So I'm very excited about today, and thanks for joining us. And thanks, Helen, for hosting us. Back to you.
Thank you, Esther, and it's my absolute privilege. It was wonderful to hear you speak at the British Ecological Society annual meeting last December, and to hear of all the amazing work you're doing to reach out to many people and share your exciting research. So great to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
So, Perpetra, over to you.
Thank you so much, Helen. I'm really happy to be part of this discussion today. I'm Perpetra Akite from Makerere University. I got my PhD in 2017 from the University of Bergen, and a joint award between University of Bergen and Makerere University. I'm basically an ecologist with a lot of keenness on insects. My work really revolves around what I would describe the eye that sees something and just goes, what the hell is that? You know, so biodiversity, insect biodiversity. And come to Africa, there is no end to that. So my work revolves around just, you know, doing general biodiversity work and, you know, general insect work, and partly because there are not many entomologists here. So it's been a hard thing to focus on one group, but I think it's also been the beautiful part of everything. Of course, I involve in training students, as well as members, lately members of two organizations, because insects are out there. Maybe the big things have become too boring and people are beginning to notice the little things. So that makes me very happy as an entomologist. My major interest is using insects as indicators of change. You know, we are all aware about what is going on in our environment. And so the use of insects as indicators for all this change is, you know, land use, climate, vis-a-vis the ecosystem services. So yeah, that's basically what I focus on. And it's been, you know, interesting a journey that I hope will carry on for the next couple of years. So back to you, Helen.
Thank you, Perpetua, and I'm absolutely sure your journey will carry on for many years to come. And it's been really wonderful to be in Uganda in the past, and I can't wait to get back and for you to share all that you know about the biodiversity. It's just incredible. So yeah. Thank you very much, Perpetua.
Thank you.
Over to you, Seirian.
Hello, yes, my name is Seirian Sumner. So I am I've got some jazzy writing going on my slide.
You have.
That's a combo from Mac to PC. Anyway, that's cool. I'm a little bit more serious than the writing suggests. I'm a reader in behavioural ecology at University College London. So I have a broad interest in behaviour. But actually, mostly now I study wasps. And the reason I study wasps is because they have fascinating behaviours. Is it possible to get the video going on the top slide at the top? Yeah. If you can.
Oh, yes, look at that.
So this is what got me hooked on behaviour in the first place. You can see these are Polistes wasps from Panama, that I spent a lot of time in Panama studying these. And each of them, I don't know if you can see, they've got a little red blob on their or paint spots on their back, on their thorax. And using these numbers, we can identify the insects individually and study their behaviours right from the moment that they're born until they reach the position of being an egg layer as a queen or as a worker. And that's what really got me hooked on wasps in the first place, because it is literally a mini soap opera and it's just cool to watch. So since then, I've become a lot more interested in the evolution of behaviour. So if you look at the bottom panel of my slide, you'll see a whole range of wasps. I'll be testing you later on these, but they're arranged in a progression such that they go from the simplest kind of societies, so really simple groups of very small number of individuals living together on a nest, much like your meerkats might be interacting, And they're really simple. They're just like our human societies in that they're all capable of being anything in life. All the way through to the kind of the honeybee equivalent in the wasps, which are these hornets and yellow jacket wasps that most people will be familiar with. So the great thing about wasps is that they show these kind of snapshots in evolutionary time. So I travel the world looking for wasps that fit the particular stage in social evolution that I'm trying to study at that moment in time. That's what's occupying me a lot at the moment. So my research involves a lot of field work. At the top of the slide, you'll see me crouched inside a drainage channel in a Malaysian rainforest, and all the little brown things ahead above me, each one of those is a wasp nest. There's probably about 1,000 nests just above my head, teeming with wasps. It's just heaven. And so I do lots of behavioural work in the field, and then I catch those insects, I bring them back to the lab in UCL, and we look at their genes, because one of the really cool things about being a behavioural ecologist at the moment is that we're now able to interrogate behaviour, not only at the what we see level in the field, but also at the level of the genes. So trying to understand how genes underpin those different behaviours and relating that to social behaviour. More recently, I've become really interested in the ecology of wasps, particularly social wasps, and their role is in the environment as key predators. So they regulate insect populations, and also their role in pollination. But the picture there that you'll see on the far side with ecology above it is actually a Polistes wasp from Brazil, which is holding the larva of a key crop pest called the fall armyworm. And so wasps are really underappreciated for the value that they could have as potential biocontrol agents, especially in developing countries in the tropics, where these wasps are incredibly diverse, as we just heard from Perpetra about the incredible diversity we get in these countries. And so at the moment, I'm really working towards trying to harness the power of wasps for biocontrol. Finally, in the middle, you'll see that's me. I'm wearing an inflated bee suit for a talk about wasps. Sadly, it's very hard to find dress-up costumes fancy dress costumes for wasps. So I had to get a bee one and retrofit it by tying a ribbon around my waist to make the wasp waist that distinguishes them from the bee. So I haven't quite done that in that photo yet, but I do believe in outreach, bringing the wonders of wasps and the fascinations of wasps to the public. Sometimes I dress up in inflatable bee suits / wasp suits, but I also do a lot of outreach work by trying to get citizen scientists involved in research with wasps, and that's through the Big Wasp Survey, which we launched with a colleague of mine, Adam Hart, from the University of Gloucestershire a couple of years ago. I think that's probably where I should stop.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Seirian. And I've known Seirian for a number of years, and we don't get to meet often enough, but it's always really wonderful when we do see one another, and all the initiatives you've been involved with, from soapbox science through to the Big Wasp Survey, it's just incredible. And I think that you're all see now the breadth of subjects that we span as a group here, all the way from the molecular ecology through to the chemical ecology, thinking about biodiversity, about landscapes, and about collections. It's just absolutely incredible. So if I wasn't already excited enough, I'm really incredibly excited now, and ready to hear from our panel. So we have some questions that have come in straight away. I am in a moment going to get to you all for your favorite insects. But first of all, we just have a question for Seirian about, why do we never hear about wasps? We always hear about bees in the media.
This is the bane of my life. I'm trying to change it. So I think actually the bee story is one of success, and we should be championing the way that researchers who study bees and their role in ecosystems as important pollinators of crops, but also native plants, wild plants, is really, really important. And it's a success story that reaches the media time and time again. And that's really important because it's making the general public really appreciate the value of the little things that run the world and the services that they give us for free, and how we should really be looking after them. So I guess what I would like us to do is to try and piggyback on that success story a little bit, but replace bees with wasps and replace pollination largely with pest control. And I'm sure amongst our listeners, there is possibly an insect or maybe an arthropod out there that they hate more than wasps, perhaps a spider or aphids or flies. And wasps are actually nature's pest controllers of those other insects. But the other great thing about wasps, is, especially the social wasps, is that they are generalists. So there's no danger that they're going to hunt out a particular caterpillar to extinction. They're simply going to cream off the most abundant populations of insects at that moment in time. So I think if we can get that story out to people a little bit more, then people will stop asking what's the point of wasps, and they'll be asking for more wasps in the media and to learn more about them.
Fantastic, thank you, Seirian. We're going to stay with wasps. I'm going to ask you all about your favorite insects, and I think we can all predict what Seirian's favorite insect is going to be. But I know he's also been asking many other people across Twitter about what is their favorite wasp. And so, Seirian, you're going to begin in our panel discussion on what is your favorite insect, and then I'll go to Ashleigh afterwards.
Sorry, it's very wasp dominated at the moment. I'll shut up soon. So I have a favourite wasp, and to anyone who knows me, that's not a surprise that I have a favourite wasp. My favourite wasp in this panel is at the bottom left-hand corner. It's the two wasps. They're brown. They've got something yellow between them. They're sharing prey between them. That's Polistes canadensis. And this is a paper wasp that lives in Panama that I mentioned earlier, you saw in the video. And the reason it's my favorite insect, my favorite wasp, is because, well, it's fascinating. Its social behavior has gripped me for over a decade now. But also we had the good fortune of sequencing the genome of it a few years ago. And that was the first hunting wasp, so a culeate wasp genome to be sequenced. And as of, well, right now, there are still only 4 wasp genomes that have been sequenced, published and sequenced, compared to about 15 of ants and many more of bees. So I think, you know, putting wasps on the map as in the genomics world, as well as the behavioral ecology world, is something that this particular species has done for us. So then I thought, well, hang on a minute, is it just me who has favorite wasps? Am I just the single crazy person in the world? So I asked Twitter, and of course it turns out there is, as I know, a huge community of fellow wasp lovers out there. And just over the last week for National Insect Week, I've been running this campaign to ask people to tell us about their favorite wasp and to post a picture. So I'll post this picture again on Twitter later with all the Twitter handles of the people who have kindly contributed these photos. There are over 30 odd species, and I've learned so much about wasps. Don't ask me to tell you about all these wasps, because I mean I was blown away. There's some crazy dudes out there.
And you featured my favorite wasp, which is Dinocampus coccinelli, which is a braconid wasp that attacks ladybirds, and it's just incredible. So yeah, thank you for that. And actually we've had a message come through saying, wow, there's so much more to wasps. So I think we can all agree with that. So over to Ashleigh for her favorite insect.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I've chosen this one, but I can't really say there's just one. We're all here because we love so many different kinds of insects. It's hard to pick one, but this one really, I had a special moment with last year. So my group that I specialise in are carrion beetles, as I mentioned, which is why I'm involved with this national recording scheme. And the carrion beetles are, like Seirian says for wasps, they're part of nature's special team that are carrying out all these kind of processes for us, you know, without any thanks really. So burying beetles are accompanied by the blowflies, and they're in nature's natural recycling team. So they are going to help break down any dead animal remains and recycle and reuse that energy to create new beetle life. And the burying beetles are by far the most interesting or most widely known in the carrion beetle group, because they have this fascinating behavior whereby the male and female beetle will care for the young. So it's a little bit like birds. They kind of create a home out of the carcass, might be a dead mouse or a dead bird. They strip it of any fur or feathers. They've buried it, they've concealed it underground, and that's to avoid competition from other scavengers like foxes. And then they will create this lovely little family setup whereby females laid eggs hatch into larvae. They sit at the top of the carcass in a little nest, and the parents will feed on the carcass, on the rotting tissue, pre-digest it and regurgitate to the young, which is totally sweet and charming. So they have this wonderful behavior. And in North America, one of the largest species that we have in the world is Necrophorus americanus. So yeah, it's quite large, as you can see from that photo, and it's a critically endangered species. So I had a very special moment with this one and some colleagues of mine last year at a conference in St. Louis, and we went to the zoo there where they are to try and help boost population numbers of this beetle in the wild. They're rearing them in captivity. So this is not something that I'm likely to see in the wild at present in America, but yeah, to see one in captivity was really special. So that's my contribution for today. But my favorite insect might change tomorrow. So
I'm actually very fickle with my favorites as well. Of course, it's always ladybirds, but it can change as to which species of ladybird. That's fantastic. Thank you, Ashleigh. And definitely Ashleigh has got me looking at more carrion than I ever thought I would be looking at. So I'm going to come back over to stop sharing the screen, and hopefully you can now see everyone before you. And I'm going to come to Esther and then Perpetua for their favorite insects. Esther, do you have a favorite insect?
Well, that's a difficult question, but I would say, you know, my encounter is with insects and how I got actually interested was way on a different track. So I grew up on a farm in the rural Kenya, and we were farmers, and so we would put a lot of hard work in growing our crops, but then halfway through, insects would come and just eat all our crops. So I would watch all our hard work just go to waste. And so I was really wondering, how can I actually study these insects that are taking away our food to develop solutions? So at that time, I really didn't think they were my favorite, because it's like, hey, you're taking away our food. Why should I make you? But I really wanted to understand them. And so Seirian, when you talked about the wasps, I remember, yeah, back in Kenya, actually, my first project was looking at braconid wasp, Cortesia flavipes, that had actually been introduced as a biological control agent to control the stem borer, Chylopatelas. So I was fascinated actually by how they, you know, these tiny wasps could actually track in a field of maize, track the maize stem borer and manage to actually get it away. So that got me interested in just intricate interactions and realizing that actually they were queuing on chemical signals. So that's how the trail of, okay, I want to understand why you're eating our maize. How can I understand how, first of all, you find our maize and how the natural enemies get to you. So that's when I started having the passion for insects. And so, yeah, moving on, yeah, I've not strayed away from the stem borers and Lepidoptera and caterpillars, because they continue to be one of the serious insect pests. So I am on a journey to ensure that I understand them and they don't cause, so that I can propose solutions so that they don't cause food insecurity issues, especially in the developing world where I come from. So that has been my fascination, and it's not going away. I look forward to really making it happen. So yeah, so I love insect pests because I can understand them more and be able to find solutions to really a challenging issue, a real life issue that affects millions and millions of people. Back to you.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you, Esther. And I know that you've already made amazing discoveries along that path. So that's just incredible. Perpetua, do you have a favorite insect?
Oh, wow. For someone who works with all this big diversity, it's a lost world to actually come up with a favorite.
Yeah, you have a lot to choose from.
I just look around over 3 decades down the road, when I first had my interaction with insects about the age of 3.5, when I, successfully took some, cocoons out of the soil while in the garden with my father, battered them again, and then I had these emerge out, and I was looking at these fellows and wow, what is that? And, the journey started off from there. And over the years, of course, going to different kinds of environment, Uganda is so rich in terms of habitat, and that habitat contributes towards the biodiversity that we have. So every time you are in the grassland habitat, you have a different favorite. You go in the forest, you have something completely different. You go in the wetlands, you have something different. And yeah, but at one point I thought there is this little understory butterfly that, kind of became my favorite. Just a black and white. Strangely, it's just a black and white butterfly. It's the only member of the genus, actually. So yeah, it's a monogenic, generic species. It's called Bicera neavi, but I think I fell in love with it with just its agility. Really in the understory, it's always in this dark, environment, tries to venture out in light, and then as soon as you get there, it just kind of dives down, So we would chase ourselves, and for a while I was trying to photograph it. I think that is why it became more of a favorite, because then I got a really good shot of it. And it is one of my treasured photographs. I think at some point I'm going to share it. But having Lepidoptera generally like my major focus, Uganda has over 1,400 named species. How do I get a favorite out of that alone, of butterflies? But it's all fascinating. And I mean, when Seirian was talking about the wasp, I just started to imagine my wasp interaction has always been with wasp when I was, young and all these things. So I've got enough of wasp venom in my system. So I hope Seirian can come to Uganda and we start something with a wasp, because lately, there's all this thing about bee venom. And so that question about why do we hear a lot about bees and not wasps? I had a discussion with one of the Hymenoptera specialists at my university, and I said, oh, people are chasing after the bee venom. I was given the most lethal stings by the wasp. So why are we not thinking about the wasp venom, And so Seirian, I think beyond this, we have a lot of discussions with the wasp.
Yeah, I think for sure we have a lot to discuss, and we will all have to get together and think about these ideas more as well. That will be just wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing your favorite insects. And I can remember Perpetua and I in Kabali Forest chasing some of the butterflies, and wow, that diversity is just immense. So we've had a few questions coming in, and at Cindy Kalisha on Twitter is really pleased to hear from Esther and to hear about her memorable insect encounters and the way in which that began your lifelong interest. That's really wonderful. We also have a question from Amma Simon, and it's about international collaborations, and it's about what are the joys and struggles of engaging in interdisciplinary work and through international collaborations. So shall I go to you first, Esther?
Probably I can start. I think the joys in really international collaborative work, it's really bridging the gap. I mean, having grown in Kenya and having had only just a few science-based institutions where live research was going on and where you had the latest equipment, facilities to really do novel, really strong science. So that allows us to be able to cross the borders and to really ensure that we are all working under the same level. I really appreciate that. And it's important for us to do that, because I think problems are no longer just a country problem. We've seen that it's global. If Kenya is hurting, the US, the UK is hurting. So that allows that overall ability to work on issues and challenges that affect all of us. And even if they don't affect you, they indirectly affect you. So that I really appreciate. And appreciate that, then you have a wonderful international fund. Look at you, all of you from all the way Uganda, UK. Appreciate that, making friends every day and realizing that actually we are one.
Yeah.
We are one. We think alike. When given the opportunity, we can thrive, excel as scientists. So that ability to realize, no, just because we come from other countries, when given the opportunity, we are scientists. We enjoy the process of science. So I like that realizing. Then we break this myth and realize, oh. Yeah, we all love insects. We all can do amazing insect studies. So yeah, that's it. And I hope that if anyone that's tuning in, if you've not, reached out and enjoyed working in a diverse team, in an interdisciplinary team, break out of those silos. Check out your scientist friend that's doing ecology, evolution. And Seirian already did a strong case for wasps. And so, so I think that's the beauty of it. Back to you.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, Esther. We have the most amazing global community. And when we have opportunities to come together and work together, we can do just such fantastic things. So I couldn't agree more. Seirian, did you want to share a few things about your joys and struggles of engaging and working in Panama, for instance?
Yes, I mean, most of my fieldwork actually has been in, I think I've actively avoided working in the UK until very recently. And so I'm always, why do I go abroad and why do I collaborate with people abroad? Because it's much more interesting than what we have on our home soil, in terms of the insects. But I think in terms of the collaborations, I mean, I think I have my most valuable interactions with people from other disciplines in other countries. And I can already feel after this call, I'm going to be emailing at least 3 of the ladies here saying, oh, this is really cool. Let's see how we can work together. The thing I really like about interdisciplinary collaborations is that you can ask really stupid questions and get away with it. When it's your own discipline, you feel like you have to pretend you're an expert in everything. But the great thing about working with people from completely different fields is you can ask those really stupid questions that perhaps you wouldn't have been confident enough to ask when you were much more junior in your career. So I think my international collaborations have taken me through several countries in Latin America, Malaysia, and also most recently in Africa, actually. So I'm really excited to meet 2 other people whose homelands are in Africa. So I've always wanted to go to Africa, and now I had the good fortune of going to Zambia last year to look at Bologna wasps. They are the supermodels of wasps. They are so beautiful. They've got these very long petioles, long wasp waists, and they're really very big, have a bit of a punch in their sting, as I'm sure the ladies know, but they are really fascinating and practically unstudied. I mean, there is so much to discover in Africa in terms of the wasps that are out there. They are so untouched. So yeah, do more collaborations abroad, interdisciplinary. It's the way forward.
It was really exciting to hear from you, Ashleigh, as well about visiting the beetles and seeing the beetles. And you'll be really pleased to know that we've just had a comment come through from Amma Simon saying her favorite beetle this week is Batis barbicornis. So it's exciting that someone else has a favorite beetle. So it's not just you and I, Ashleigh, with the favorite beetles. Right. So that's fantastic. Let's move on to another question, because we have got questions coming through. So it's really exciting, and I'm delighted that everyone is joining with us today. Thank you very much for being out there and hearing what we have to say and posing your questions, and keep sending the questions through. So another question that we have is, what would your advice be to someone who would like to pursue their interest in entomology? And I'm going to come to you, Ashleigh, and then Perpetra. So Ashleigh.
Just go for it. Absolutely. Follow that passion, follow that dream. Like, don't ever think that it's out of reach. I know so many of my friends that are within entomology they didn't set out to study insects. I mean, I didn't either. I went to university thinking I was going to be a crime scene investigator. I studied forensic science. A friend of the family is a fingerprint expert, and I just thought her job was incredible. I also watched a lot of CSI, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. And it's actually my second year of university, my professor introduced me to insects and really turned my head. So I specialised in the forensic entomology during that, and that's what started that off. So I didn't intend to study insects at first. I've got friends that were artists originally and have had a career change. But if you're passionate about it, that will get you through. So just, I think the thing to do is to connect up with other people. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid to email an existing entomologist. I mean, any one of us, for example, every entomologist I meet is itching to help the next generation. So I think just reach out, ask questions, ask what you can do, get out there, look at insects, study insects as much as you can, read, and really, just connect up with other people.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ashleigh. And I'm glad you added the extra bit about the itching, because it's not just the entomologists that are itching. We are itching to share our information with you. So, Perpetua, how about you? Do you have some advice for people who wish to work on insects and get involved?
I always, I've always had this discussion with the people, and I just tell them entomology, like most of the biology fields, is really a passion-driven field. So as soon as you wake up one morning and you find your passion for entomology, it's going to carry you beyond what you think, because I've seen this, what started off as just a little garden project before the age of 10, turned out to be a career. And then, so it's a very passion-driven field. I always tell people, if you are someone looking to make a difference, you better join the entomology, because the fact that there's all this diversity, you can never run short of finding an area to belong.
Mm-hmm.
We have never had enough crowd in entomology, unlike other fields. So I tell them, if you want your space where you can actually occupy and enjoy, then you simply just need to be in entomology, and because looking around you, insects are going to be everywhere. So somehow you'll always have opportunity, and I think especially for Uganda, looking around, you barely see these entomologists. And this is really something that weighs down so much on me. So when I have my students who are actually doing entomology, it's always been a drive, to keep them there. Of course, the challenge, what has been very challenging with studying biology is always in the job market. It's really put a lot of people off, wanting to study biology, wanting to study entomology, because they just feel, there is just no job for it. But then when you tell somebody, you will be your own boss when it comes to entomology, then they get to think about it. And actually they realize, wow, that's actually true, And because that happened with me, when I finished my bachelor's degree, I never went into any formal employment. And so I just took myself out into a private entomology consultant. And I did that for all these years. And I'm happy to say I've only been formally employed for possibly 2.5 years. But all my experiences have just come from following the passion that I have for entomology. And that has yielded a lot of data that was always going to be here, that somebody will be like, yeah, there was somebody out here. And so I just need a lot of more disciples to come on board, have a few of them. Yeah, but getting more of them out there will be nice.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I absolutely agree. It's just such the most wonderful career and the most wonderful work in whatever way you are studying or working on insects, and even with all our amazing volunteers as well who get involved. There's just something for everyone. So Esther, is there any advice you have for people wishing to work on insects?
I think they've said it all. Follow your art. I always say, there's never a boring day in my life.
Yeah,
and
no, I agree.
Yes, the diversity and the range in behaviors with insects. I mean, the other day I got new larvae and I was dancing in the house, and my husband was like, "Why are you dancing?" I said, "I have new babies." Like, what? Why understand and comprehend somebody dancing because the insects are here. But it's just amazing. And, you know, there's so many questions you can ask, and so many, as these questions, as you ask them, of course, you're generating solutions to everyday challenges that insects bring about, whether it's in public health, food insecurity, just also the diversity of them all. I mean, just come to entomology. Do not think any further. And there's so many, actually, I think entomologists, we are really out there. We are passionate about sharing what we do and bringing many, many, many more into the field. I think entomologists are really outgoing and have gone to different societies and meetings, but entomologists are just way too fun. So yeah, never doubt, come out, join us, and we will get you through, and we will ensure that you just continue to have the fun we have every day and for the rest of our lives. Thank you.
Tell us next time you have some larvae arriving and we'll join the dance with you.
I have to say that we had an insect related dance just before I came on this chat. My daughter's stick insect eggs had hatched, and she has many, many hundreds of small stick insects all over our house. But there was a dance.
Fantastic, and I bet it was a wonderful dance. So some advice, Seirian, for people wishing to study or work in entomology?
Oh, well, I think you know, it's all been said already. I guess the only thing I'd add is that wherever you are in the world, there is always an insect on your doorstep that you can start to study now, no matter what your age or where you are, or what, you know, whether you live in a block of flats or in a farm or a field. There's insects everywhere, and that's the wonderful thing about insects. I think the insects unite people across the world.
Yeah, no, they really do. And, you know, whatever age someone is, there is something out there for them to get involved with entomology. And yeah, as you say, whether it's in your back garden or on your windowsill, there are insects there waiting to be studied. And yeah, it is just a fantastic discipline. So I'm going to move to think about a question that is on my mind a lot at the moment. So we're all mindful of the inequalities that exist throughout the field of entomology and indeed beyond throughout science. But when we're just thinking about entomology, what one thing would you like to see the Royal Entomological Society do to work towards and ultimately ensure that we have equality, diversity, and inclusion? I know it's not an easy question at all, but I thought I'd come to you first, Seirian, to begin.
Oh, yes, it's an easy question to ask. It's a difficult question to answer. But I guess the obvious one is role models. So if we want to encourage these next generation of entomologists to capture the diversity of gender and backgrounds, then we really need to be having those role models up front, who are talking about insects like we are now, who anyone can find someone to identify with. And I think entomology is in particular has got a bit of a struggle there, because certainly in the UK, we have this history of entomology being kind of a gentleman's hobby. I mean, you look at Darwin and his beetles, you know, he studied these insects, and it was acceptable and reputable for a man of means to study insects. And I think that's partly been carried through with the entomology societies that we have today in the UK. And certainly when I was a PhD student, I remember going along to insect group meetings and not really feeling that I could relate to anybody, because they were mostly male and white, and also they were much older than me. And so I think one thing that's really changing at the moment is that, I mean, there are thousands of brilliant female entomologists out there, like all of you guys. And I particularly want to mention Fran behind the scenes, who's been running all of this. She's just one of the most outstanding entomologists I've ever met. So I'm really inspired by her. So I think we should be really, you know, putting people like Fran and the ladies on this chat up front as those role models, so that young girls can see that there are girls, no matter what background they are, they too can follow this exciting career as an entomologist. So I think I'd like to see the Royal Entomological Society really embracing the diversity of entomologists that we really do have within our community and bringing them to the forefront.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I've seen all of you, including Fran, sharing your passion for entomology, and you are just the most amazing role models. You really are. So it's just fantastic. So yeah, it's not an easy question, but I would really love to hear your thoughts, all of you. So I'll come to you, Perpetra.
Thank you. And I mean, as Seirian said, I would just say from my own experience that, you know, Helen and I met at Southampton at a butterfly conservation conference. Wow. At that conference, we were 2 African participants and the only typical African face, so to say. But, you know, ever since that day up to today, Helen and I have been, you know, together. And that is part of the reason, I mean, the bigger reason is that she's a woman that I look up to in entomology. It's very easy for, you know, I mean, when you have a woman as a role model, we quite identify, you know, with a lot of similar things. Because, you know, the cross role model sometimes have its own challenges, you know, because you want somebody who is seeing things from your point of view. So having all these wonderful, you know, role models in entomology, have met, and maybe not only entomology, but, you know, it's been quite amazing in entomology, you know, Rosie at TBA. And over the years, I've met so many amazing women in entomology, especially. So, and that really encourages, you know, so if, you know, there's the opportunity to do, you know, the mentorship and, you know, kind of ground most of, you know, the upcoming young women in entomology. Looking at the situation back in Uganda, of course, it's very difficult when you don't even have the people to mentor in this field.
I think we may have lost Perpetua momentarily. Let's give a few more seconds. The call connection was going so well. I tell you what, I'll come back to Perpetua and we'll pick up on her points, and I'll come over to you, Ashleigh, for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I back exactly what Perpetua and Seirian have said, and also maybe add that if, I don't know that it's possible, but if the Royal ENTSOC can help in the fight to get more natural history in schools, in teaching, I think that's a really important part, because yeah, we're not having entomology being taught in schools, and it's actually been lost from a lot of zoology degrees as well. So there is a push at the moment to try and get a natural history GCSE, which is amazing. So I don't know if the Royal ENTSOC can continue to help push this through, and there's already so many connections with the Royal ENTSOC going into schools and doing lots of events. So just really continuing with that and trying to reach a diverse group of students as much as possible, really, because for me, I found that, especially being in the museum sector, there's so much volunteering that is required to get you up the ladder and into the roles, into the jobs that exist. And so many people aren't in the situation where financially they can do that. I mean, when I was volunteering, I was working 3 different jobs and paying to go into London and do the volunteering. And so many people can't even do that. So entomology needs to be more accessible. Yeah, I don't know how I'm not entirely sure, but the Royal ENTSOC already does an incredible job in promoting entomology to as many people as possible, but getting it into schools more and just reaching as many diverse students as possible.
Yeah, no, that's really fantastic advice. And I agree, the outreach that the Royal Entomological Society does under the leadership of Luke and Fran is just absolutely incredible, and with Jim there too. So yeah, there's a great team there and good things happening already, but lots more to be done. So Esther, do you have some thoughts?
I think, you know, there are several points of intervention, I think, and of course, I'm not in the Royal, but thinking through the Entomological Society of America, like just recently, we've had a group, the Entopoc, that's actually trying to get as many students of color registered into the society and facilitating the ability to participate in meetings, to participate in a lot of just growth opportunities, so that they have that sense of belonging, which I think, Ashleigh already mentioned Seirian and Perpetra, that when you come in and you find you're the only person of color, of course, it can, really just weigh you down and make you wonder whether actually you really belong there. So ensuring that there are many, wherever we are missing them, we are losing them, we cannot afford to lose any. And I'm always wondering, because when we go to outreach right at the younger age, everybody's excited about entomology, black and white. Where do we lose them along our entomology pipeline? I mean, insects unite us. So how can we carry that and ensure that we are not? Of course, it takes a lot of stepping out of our comfort. Going to the communities where people of color, diversity, really living the diversity and inclusion takes a lot more than the talk. There's a lot of, and takes a lot of just really moving out of your comfort zone. And whenever you find yourself in a group of just people that look like you, bring on board somebody that's different, bring on board somebody of color. I was really appreciated when we went to the British Ecological Society meeting the first day, they, for all the people that it was their first time, just having that extra meeting so that we break the barriers of feeling just isolated and everything. So those are just little things that can make a difference. And really, making sure, bringing all the students we have to ensuring that they're being mentored, then all through as they begin their postdoc, their early career, really just being there for one another, recruiting, and even as we do our outreach, ensuring we have a diversity in the students that go out for outreach, because I always say it's hard to ask me to be an entomologist. I don't see anybody that looks like me. So really trying to always carry diversity every day. And I think it's an everyday journey. It's not just when things start to turn this way, then we all are talking about diversity. So I think just making a point of always, by the end of the day, asking myself, was I inclusive? Did I live by the principles? And and I think also more research to allow that we know the best practices and we can follow that.
Yeah, no, just such fantastic advice. And the idea at the end of the day, just asking ourselves these questions and reflecting, it just could make so much difference. And, we all know that everyone from so many different backgrounds has something to bring to the subject, and it's all the more richer for all of us being involved as well. So yeah, let's keep working at that. And we really look forward to ideas within the Royal Entomological Society, how we can do things better. We're still looking to see whether Perpetra joins us. I should tell everybody that the Perpetra, just before we came online, had a problem with a power cut. So I've just been delighted that she's been with us for as long as she was within the call. And I will make sure that I have the responses from Perpetra for our final question. And we will be putting an article within the Royal Entomological Society magazine, Antenna, and we'll make sure that that's available so other people can also access that and see the answers that our fantastic panel have been giving. We're almost out of time, just as unbelievable. And we could spend the whole afternoon just chatting with one another and sharing enthusiasm and passion for entomology and talking about the amazing life histories of the different insects that we work on and the chemical communication and the vast array of collections. And we could even go back to wasps, and there's so much more we could talk about. But I'm going to finish in these closing moments by asking you all one last question about what's your next steps in entomology. And I'm going to begin with you, Esther, if you don't mind, to think about what's your next steps in entomology.
For me, I think it's just about finding the solutions to everyday challenges that insects bring about. So I will every day go to the lab with a fresh attitude, with just a very open mind, and look for the answers because yeah, definitely insects, yeah, they're beautiful to look at, but at the same time, on the other side, they cause really everyday tough challenges. So for me, my passion to find food security issues, the challenges insects pests bring to the farmers every day will keep me going, will keep me waking up every day, will keep me dancing when the insect larvae come, because I know that I have an experiment that can contribute to solutions. And I'm so excited. And I hope we also live by the principles of diversity, just as our insects are so diverse. I wish to live a world by the time I finish my career to see so much diversity. When I attend the meetings, then I'm like, whoa, look at this rainbow of scientists.
Yeah.
I will continue to do that every day. And I thank you for really hosting us and appreciate it, Helen.
Oh, well, we will be there with you through the days as well. And we're looking forward to you hearing all your findings. And yeah, it's just fantastic. So thank you for that. So Ashleigh, how about you for your next steps?
I'm still quite early on in my career, I suppose. There's so much to still learn. I mean, the best thing about entomology is that you'll just keep on learning forever, right up until the day that we leave this earth. So yeah, really just continue to grow and become as best a scientist and curator as I can be. In terms of the collection, I really hope to kind of leave my mark on it so that future curators will look back and say, oh yeah, she did okay. Not be one of those curators that people go, oh, I wish they'd done this better.
You do more than okay. You've already done that, Ashleigh. You can tick that.
Thank you. I mean, I hope that I can be a role model for those students to come as well.
Fantastic. And Seirian, how about you?
Unmute. Okay. Yeah, so I think I've probably talked a lot already, but I started my career posed on pure science questions about evolutionary biology and behaviour. And more recently, I've become, as I said, interested in the more applied angle that wasps in particular can offer us. And the work that we're doing on biocontrol, I'm totally going to be talking to Esther. The work we're doing on biocontrol is very embryonic because unlike the parasitoid wasps, which are really well renowned for being important biocontrol agents, the role of hunting wasps, the aculeates, is very under research. So funding's a problem. I'd like to get some funding to do that, but that's kind of my sort of mission now, is to kind of balance my research basis from still keeping the pure stuff going, because I'm fascinated by the evolution of social behavior, but also trying to balance that with something about how can wasps help us. And of course, packaged into that is, if we can prove that wasps are really useful to us, then maybe people will start to love them a bit more.
That sounds fantastic. And I wish that Perpetua had been able to join us for the very end. But I will say that walking through Kabali Forest with Perpetua was just so magical. She brings it alive with her knowledge in biodiversity, and her mentoring is just incredible. And I know that was a point at which she was finishing with what she was saying, that she wants to mentor even more people. And she is just, as you all are, an absolute inspiration. So thank you for the most wonderful hour. Fantastic to see you all. And I'm really looking forward to the next time that we meet and the next time that we dance. Thank you very much. And thank you to Fran for all that she has done, and the Royal Entomological Society for bringing